Hi, I'm Kelly.
Hey, and I'm Jim, and between the two of us, we've got over 40 years of hunting experience.
We're both federally certified firearms instructors.
Hey, this video is going to introduce you to the sport of black powder hunting.
In this video, there's information for both the beginning black powder hunter and the veteran black powder hunter.
Hey, Kelly, speaking of black powder, why don't you go ahead and explain to the folks the difference between the modern rifle and the black powder rifle.
Okay, Jim. The black powder rifle, the powder is poured down the bore, then followed by a projectile. As we know, the modern counterpart has the powder in a cartridge case with a projectile on the case. This case is inserted into the chamber, then this is followed by an action.
Hey, all right. Well, I'm getting a little bit excited about this. What do you say we just go ahead and get it rolling?
Well, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Me too. Let's do it. When dealing with black powder rifles or any other firearm, safety should be remembered first and foremost. You should always remember, 1, point that weapon in the safest possible direction. And number 2, always treat that firearm and all firearms as though they were loaded. Remember the laser theory. Pretend that there's a laser beam coming from the muzzle of that rifle. Anywhere that muzzle is being pointed, that laser is cutting through objects. Now let's talk about a misfire for a moment. A misfire can occur with a black powder rifle as well as any other firearm. Follow the guidelines in the manual that came with your particular black powder rifle. And always wait that 15 seconds. Now let's talk about reloading the black powder rifle after a shot has been fired. Again, we like to caution that 15-second waiting period. Hey, what happens if you've got a hot ash in the bottom of that barrel? You pour that fresh powder down there, you start to run that bullet down on top of it, and next thing you know, you've got an explosion right there in your hands. Remember, wait that 15 seconds on both the misfire and the reload after making the shot.
Now let's talk about purchasing your black powder firearm. Depending on the type of shooting you're going to do, you may want a rifle, a shotgun, or a pistol, or you may want all three. Let's take a look at this rifle from Cabela's. This is a 54 caliber Hawken, a fine piece of work as you can see. This rifle shoots well, and it has a very affordable price. Now let's take a look at the shotgun. This is also a Cabela's model. It's a 10 gauge in percussion. I've taken pheasants, I've taken geese, ducks, chucker, quail, doves. Hey, you can take them all with this baby. Now let's take a look at a revolver. Don't be fooled. This little baby backs some power. This is a Cabela's Model 44 in a Remington replica. If you notice, it has the top strap over the cylinder, and it also has adjustable target sights. This makes it extremely accurate. You might want to pick one of these up just for plinking around. They're really fun. Let's take a look at an old black powder cartridge rifle. This is a Remington Model 1873 rolling block. This had a cartridge with black powder in it and a projectile, just as the modern version is today, only it was black powder, not smokeless powder. By the way, this rifle still functions. Depending on your style of shooting, you may want these older versions. Of course, these are replicas, except for the Remington, which is an original. Or you may want a more modern version of a black powder rifle. Let's take a look at a couple of these. First, we're going to look at the white. This is the white systems. This is a 50 caliber. It has a bolt and not a hammer, like you saw on this Hawken rifle. This is an exceptionally fine rifle, and it shoots very well. Now we're going to take a look at my personal favorite. This is the new Remington Model 700 muzzleloader. Yes, I did say Remington. They're brand new on the market, and this rifle shoots extremely accurate. A little later in the video, we'll show you how accurate. Depending on what you can afford, you may want the best on the market, or you may want something that you can just get by with. This may be a factory rifle, or you may want a kit version of a factory rifle. The kit version is less expensive because of course you have to build it at home. But this can be done with just basic household tools. It's very fun and it's very rewarding. Just think, when you put that rifle together, you go out there and you take that animal, you did it with something you built with your own two hands. That's rewarding. Now that you've decided which black powder firearm is right for you, you're going to need some equipment. There are many, many different types of equipment on the market today available for your black powder firearm. You might look in your firearms manual, or talk to the guys at the range that shoot black powder, or discuss it with a qualified firearms gunsmith. They'll all be able to give you some pointers on which equipment is right for you. Let's take a look at our equipment. Here we have powder. This is Pyrodex RS in a double F granulation, and this is original black powder in triple F granulation. Depending on your manufacturer and what they suggest will depend on what you shoot in your weapon. Next, let's talk about the powder flask. The powder flask is made of brass. The reason this is because you won't get a spark off of the powder flask when you're opening it. If you get a spark and you have powder in here, you have a bomb in your hands. Be very careful with that. Next, you'll need a ball starter. The ball starter has a small indentation on one side, and what you do is place the projectile on top of the bore, place your small side of the ball starter on the projectile, and give it a swift tap. That will start the projectile in the bore. Then turn it 90 degrees, and you have a long shank side. Place it on the projectile again, give it another tap. That'll drive it further in the bore. This is followed up with ramrod. Next, you'll need a powder measure. This is a small and very convenient powder measure. It has a lock ring on the bottom, and you simply rotate the lock ring, and this can be adjusted up or down. If you'll notice, there are numbers on the side of this powder measure. This gives you the prescribed load. Say it's 70 grains, you move it to 70 grains. If it's 90 grains, move it to 90 grains. Powder measure is a must. Never ever attempt to pour powder directly in the bore without measuring it first. Next, you'll need a projectile. I have 3 projectiles here. I have a Great Plains bullet by Hornady. I have a saboted or sabot, and I have the round ball and patch. Depending on your firearm and what you plan to shoot at or shoot with will depend on the projectile that you use for your firearm. Next, you will need a capper. The capper holds the caps, then the caps are placed on the nipple. You simply insert the capper onto the nipple and pull it off. That will insert a cap on the nipple. The firearm then is ready to fire. You will also need caps. Then you'll need a nipple wrench. And this nipple wrench will take the nipple off of the firearm, and this is for cleaning or if you have a malfunction in the field. At the back of the nipple wrench, you'll unscrew it and you have a nipple pick. After the shot, this comes in very handy. This will be instructed a little later. Next, we have a speed loader. You may or may not want a speed loader. but they're very handy for follow-up shots. Remembering back on Jim's tip, once you fire the firearm, you need to wait at least 15 seconds. But this will help you out. Once the firearm is fired, you're waiting your period of time, pop one end, dump the powder down the bore, then open the other end, which contains the projectile, seated on top of the barrel. Take your ball starter, start it down, and discard the speed loader. Very handy item. Next is a cleaning jag, and this is screwed onto your muzzleloader ramrod or a cleaning rod, depending on what you prefer. Also, there are many different things that can help you as you go along. And you'll have friends or family that says, hey, you know what I like to do? I like to do this, or I like to do that. And them are good ideas, but think about them before you do them. Make sure they're safe ideas. You might want to talk to somebody else before you actually do them. One thing I like to do, I like to take old cap cans and put different things in them. They're very handy in the field. In this one contains an assortment of nipples for my different types of firearms that I have. I take patches, round ball patches, place them in the bottom and in the top of the can. That way, when I'm out in the field hunting, they don't rattle. They're quiet. It dampens the sound. If you just had them in the can, they go ting, 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 and that's not real good. All of this will be contained in a possibles bag on a belt. Simply goes around you. Everything's right on your side. Or you may prefer just to put your items in your pockets. And that's fine too. Remember, these are just some of the items that you may purchase for your black powder rifle. There are a lot of others out there, but get with someone that's qualified or your manufacturer's book to let you know what is right for your weapon. Now let's talk a little bit about black powder. Black powder has been around for hundreds of years. It's a very simple formula made up of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. Remember, never attempt to make black powder at home. It's extremely dangerous. Let's leave this up to the manufacturers. Black powder comes in granulations from 1F to 4F. 1F being the largest granulation and 4F being the smallest granulation. Between the two is double F and triple F. Here we have the double F black powder. You can see the granulation here. And then to its left is the triple F granulation black powder, it being smaller than the double F. For many years, powder manufacturers have been trying to come up with a black powder that's not as harsh as original black powder. Hodgdon has come up with Pyrodex. Pyrodex is an extremely good powder for your black powder firearm. This powder comes in CTG, which is the cartridge form, and the RS, which is the double F granulation equivalent of black powder, and the P, which is the triple F granulation equivalent of black powder. Remember, never mix your black powders. Never put triple F and double F together. And remember also, never use 4F black powder in any firearm. This black powder was designed for the flash pan of a flintlock rifle or pistol. Never mix smokeless powder with black powder, and never use smokeless powder in your black powder firearm. Smokeless powder builds extreme pressure. Remember, folks, refer to your owner's manual as to what powder or what weight powder your rifle will use. By weight, we mean by volume. This is how black powder is measured. Not by weight, but by volume. Your cartridge cases are measured by weight. We measure ours in a powder measure, which may range from 70 grains up to 120 grains, depending on what your manufacturer says is good for your rifle. Next up is Jim, and he's going to talk a little bit about projectiles.
Thanks, Kelly. Hey folks, let's move forward for a little bit. Let's talk about the type of projectile or bullet that you might want to fire from your black powder rifle. Remember, choosing the type of bullet that you're going to be firing depends a lot on the twist of the riflings in the particular barrel or rifle that you happen to own. Take for instance, if you're firing a 1 in 28 or 1 in 48 twist barreled rifle, regardless of the make or brand or caliber, you're going to be able to fire from that rifle anything from the patched round ball to the conical bullet to possibly even the saboted bullet, or what is sometimes called the sabot. If you're firing a rifle with a rifle twist of above 1 in 48, then you're going to want to stay with two types of bullets: the round ball or patched round ball and the conical bullet. Let's talk about these bullets for just a moment. The first round we're going to talk about is going to be the patched round ball. That's exactly what it is. It gets its name because of the fact that you are firing a lead, pure lead, round ball with a cloth patch. You can buy these round balls over the counter at your local gun store or outdoor store, or you might even choose to make these round balls at home. They do make, several manufacturers make different types of round ball molds, and they come in all calibers, anything from say the 32 caliber all the way up to the 58 caliber. If you choose to buy a bullet mold to make your own round balls and or even your own conical bullets, make sure that you use plumber's lead or some other type of lead that is pure lead. Please do yourself and your rifle a favor. Don't go down to your local gas station where they fix flat tires and pick up just any old tire weight that you might want to take home, melt down, and put this lead into this mold and pour this round ball. Because I'll tell you what, these round balls have got to be pure lead. So do your conical bullets. The lead that you're receiving from your local gas station that fixes flat tires, these lead weights have a lot of babbitt in them. It makes the lead real hard, and it does the riflings on the barrel no good whatsoever. Let's move forward. Let's talk a little bit about your conical bullet. I have two types of conical bullet here. The first type of conical bullet I have is the Hornady Great Plains bullet and the Buffalo bullet made by the Buffalo Bullet Company. Both of these bullets are excellent rounds for large game animals, and they also come in 45, 50, 54 caliber. You might also choose a mold, or you might choose to go down and pick up at your local sporting goods store a box of these are Thompson Center Maxi Hunter. This is a Maxi ball. It also comes in, say, 45, 50, and 54, 58 caliber. Those are the most commonly used caliber of rifles. It is also an excellent choice for large game animals, thick-skinned animals. Or you might choose the saboted or sabot bullet. Basically, what this is in my right hand I have a 50 caliber pistol bullet in a jacketed hollow point. This is my choice of bullet for, say, bull elk. I also have in my left hand a sabot or sabot. The bullet is simply placed inside the sabot or sabot, like so. This, in conjunction with each other, is run down the bore of the barrel, fired at higher velocities than, say, your Maxi ball, your Buffalo bullet, or your Great Plains bullet. The reason for this is because this bullet right here in my hand, this 50 caliber pistol bullet, is only 325 grains. It's 50 caliber in a 54 sabot, but it's only 325 grains, where if we're talking about, say for instance, the Great Plains bullet, it is also 54 caliber, same as the saboted bullet, but this is a 425 grain bullet. If you run this 425 grain out with 100 grains of double F black powder, and you run this saboted bullet out with 100 grains of double F black powder, the velocity is going to be much higher on the 50 caliber 325 versus the 54 caliber 425 because of the difference in the weight of the bullets. This is a new design of bullet put out by Barnes Bullet Company. This bullet is lead-free. This helps keep our environment lead-free. The sabot that comes with this particular bullet here is a black sabot. This is for a 50 caliber rifle. It's a 50 caliber black sabot with a 45 caliber bullet. When you're firing a round ball with a patch, remember, patch lubricant. What I use is the Thompson Center bore butter. There's a couple of reasons I use this. The most important reasons is, number one, it's non-toxic. It's also biodegradable, and all the components of this product are food grade rated. Now, why don't we go see Kelly, talk a little bit about the basic fundamentals of marksmanship.
That's right, Jim. I do have some pointers on the basic fundamentals of marksmanship. Just as you drive a vehicle, when you insert the keys, place your seatbelt on, and adjust the seat, they are the basic fundamentals of driving a vehicle. Same applies to a firearm. You must learn these basic fundamentals before you take that one important shot. We'll begin with the standing position. The standing position should only be used when no other position can be used, whether it be an obstruction of some kind or whatever it may be. The standing position is as follows. You grip the firearm with your strong hand on the grip of the firearm, placing the weak hand on the forearm just in front of the rear sight. The butt of the rifle is brought up and put in the crease of your strong side shoulder. Then the weak arm is brought back toward the body to make a stable platform. Align your sights and you are ready for the shot. Now we'll discuss the kneeling position. This is a very stable position and it's easy to get into. It's my favorite position. This position is as follows. Again, grip the rifle in the proper fashion. Then kneel on the strong side knee and place it on the ground. The strong side buttock is placed on the strong side heel. Then the weak side arm just above the elbow is placed on the weak side knee. Now shoulder the rifle, placing the butt of the rifle in the crease of the shoulder. Cheek down on the stock. Align the sights. You're ready to take the shot. As you can see, the kneeling position is a very stable position. Use this position when the prone position cannot be used, whether the grass is too high or you have some brush in front of you and you just can't see that buck in a prone position. It's a very stable position and don't let it slip by. Now we're going to discuss the prone position. It is by far the most stable position there is. Hey, many years ago when I started out shooting firearms and hunting with my father, he used to kind of laugh at me and say, "Yeah, Kelly's making them beds again." He'd see me run around on a hillside and I was looking for a bush to get in. And I'd lay down on top of that bush and make a very stable platform. But let me tell you something, he seen me take a lot of bucks at a long distance. It's a very stable position, and when you can, when it's available, use that position. If the grass is too high, you may not be able to. But if you get the opportunity, use it. It's very stable. This is how the prone position goes. What you want to do is place your strong side knee on the ground, then the weak side knee holding the rifle off the ground. Go to your elbows, then lay on your belly on the ground. You're making a Y with your legs. Now you will take your weak side elbow, holding the rifle up just like a monopod would. Shoulder the rifle, align your sights. Now you're ready for the most stable shot you can get. Thanks, Dad, for demonstrating those 3 shooting positions. Next, let's talk about sight alignment. Sight alignment is merely placing the front sight in the rear sight notch with equal distance on both sides, and the front sight is level at the top with the rear sight. Sight picture is merely placing a target on the sights. All the while you are doing this holding your sight alignment, you begin to squeeze the trigger, maintaining proper sight alignment. You want the shot to be a surprise shot. When you say, "Whoa, the gun went off," that's what you want. You don't want to say, "The gun's gonna go off, boom," because you're gonna get a jerk trigger pull. Let's watch this shot.
You know, there's a lot of black powder hunters out there who honestly believe that their black powder rifle is only capable of harvesting big game and small game up to 100 yards. Hey, there's a lot of archery hunters out there with this new archery equipment. I've seen some fantastic bows on the market that were capable and are capable today of harvesting big game animals up to and sometimes even beyond 80 yards. These black powder rifles are highly capable and very effective weapons out to and beyond 200 yards. What I have here right now is the new Remington Model 700 ML muzzleloader. What I'm going to be firing here is the 230 grain 45 caliber pistol bullet. It's a jacketed hollow point and it's in a black sabot for this 50 caliber Remington rifle. What my dad has here in his hand is a simple piece of notebook paper. It's yellow in color, so it's a bright color, so I'll be able to see it easily. It's 5 inches by 7 inches. 7 inches long by 5 inches wide. He's got a couple of sticks here, some tape and a hammer. He's going to step off what we believe is going to be real close to 200 yards, and I'm going to fire this rifle with 110 grains of double F black powder with this 45 caliber saboted bullet. I'm going to fire it from this point right here out to the 200 yard mark of what he stepped off to believe is 200 yards and hopefully hit that piece of paper. What we're going to do for you is, instead of trying to edit or cut or splice, we're going to go ahead and roll this camera from this minute forward. In other words, you're going to actually see me kneel down or go into a prone position here, fire the rifle, the camera's going to come back up on the target. My dad, Roland, is going to walk out, get the target, and walk directly from there right back to here, and we're going to look at this target and see if I actually hit it out to 200 yards. Hey, this Model 700 Remington rifle, it's a new model, it's a new version of black powder rifle. It's highly capable of harvesting large, thin-skinned, big game animals, sometimes even out to and possibly even beyond 300 yards. Hey, Dad, what do you say we go ahead and do this?
Let's go. I got a long walk ahead of me.
All right. Go ahead and step off what you think's about 200 yards, and we'll let it roll. See what happens. As you can see, 200 yards is going to be quite a ways out, and we'll just see what happens here. He's going to step off what he believes is 200 yards. He's stepping off probably 2.5 to 3 foot per step. And hopefully our batteries on our camera, the mic and everything will hold up for this until we can get this shot made. I'd sure like to show you what these things are capable of doing. This 230 grain is a Hornady. It's a Hornady 230 grain 45 caliber pistol bullet, and I have it inside the Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath is for a 50 caliber black powder rifle. Simply place it in, pour the prescribed amount of powder which your firearm is set up to shoot. Never, ever, by any circumstances, never go outside the firearms manual that you have been given with the particular rifle that you're firing. Hey, if you happen to have a rifle at home, black powder rifle, and you have misplaced or possibly lost your shooter's manual for that particular caliber or particular brand or make of rifle, most of these firearms has the manufacturer name and their address on, or at least it'll show a city and state of the manufacturer printed on the barrel. What you can do is go ahead and write those folks. They'll be more than happy to send you an owner's manual for your rifle, whether it be a CVA, a Remington, a Thompson Center, or maybe even the Traditions rifle. They're more than happy if you'll go ahead and write them and tell them you've misplaced or lost your manual. Hey, they'll send you another one, a brand new one. I highly recommend you read that manual and follow. Please follow those 10 steps of firearm safety. It is printed in almost every firearms manual on the market today. It is printed there and it's there for you. Make sure you follow those 10 steps. How's he doing? Let's see, where's he at? Woo, he's getting out there. He's getting out there. He's well over 100 and... Yeah, I see you. That's it. Okay, that's about, I'm going to guess that's probably between 190 and 200 yards. He's probably real close to the 200 yard mark right now. I'll go ahead and take the shot. It's not exactly 200. He stepped it off. We didn't have a measuring tape or anything here. It's real close to 200, but it's not exact. When I went ahead and matched this bullet in 110 grains of double F black powder for this rifle that I'm shooting right here, this Remington 700, I was at a range. I had a 200 yard mark. I knew it was exactly 200 when I sighted for that. This is going to be a little different because it stepped off. It's not an actual measured course, so I don't know that that's exactly 200. But I'm saying it's between 190 and 200, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is hold for a 200 yard shot. It could be a little high because it may be 190, or it may be a little low because it's 210 yards. But we're going to find out what this rifle's capable of doing. And believe me, if I can do this, if I can match the load and the bullet for this rifle right here and make this kind of a shot, so can you. Hey, I'm not a bit afraid. Take this rifle out next month. It's August right now. September's coming up next month. And getting ready for that black powder muzzleload deer hunt for southern New Mexico desert mule deer. And I'm not a bit afraid to take this rifle with this load right here and take a desert muley at that distance right there. These are very, very effective firearms. They will do it. If I can do it, you can do it too. Okay, he's back off. He's gone to the right of the target, and he's out at about 85 yards to the right of the target, so he's at a good safe distance for me to make this shot. Let's go ahead and see what I can do here. The new Remington Model 700 muzzle loader. Put this bullet in my pocket so I don't lose it. I'm going to fire this from a prone position. That prone position is probably the sturdiest position you can get in. When you do have the capability of getting into the prone position, we highly recommend you do that. It's the most stable position you can use when making a long distance shot. And I'll tell you another thing. This Harris bipod that I have on this rifle right here is almost a must for these shots. It is almost impossible to make this shot without a Harris bipod or some other type of bipod. This happens to be a Harris. Some type of bipod to steady this rifle. The rifle has got to be steady when you get ready to make this shot. You cannot do this from a kneeling or a standing or a prone freehand position. I highly recommend you get one of these if you don't already have one on your muzzleloader. Alright, here we go. I'm going to lay down here. Get my little cord out of the way. Okay. Go ahead and cap this rifle. Bolt it down, it's on safe. Okay, let's take the safety off. Okay, here we go, folks. Safety off. Okay, there's a shot. Bolt back, take the cap off, put the rifle back on safe. Leave the rifle right there for right now. Okay. Your guess is as good as mine. But I held that rifle for a 200-yard shot. We'll just have to see how it did. Kind of nervous. I don't know if I missed or hit, but I held for a 200-yard shot. And it looked good. It looked good. Like I say, that's the 230 grain Hornady, 230 grain jacketed hollow point for a 45 caliber semi-automatic handgun. I've taken that bullet and placed it inside, like I say, placed it inside the 50 caliber Black Sabbath right there. And that's the round I use for deer, antelope, or any type of big game that's thin-skinned. What I recommend, and I believe I've already said it once on the video, but I'll say it one more time. What I highly recommend for deer, if you're shooting a 1 in 48 or tighter twist, say the 1 in 32 or 1 in 28 also, is the for elk, I highly recommend the Hornady XTP 300 grain 45 caliber long Colt pistol bullet. Place that bullet inside the 50 caliber Black Sabbath, and let me tell you, it does a wonderful job on elk. I've taken 4 elk in 4 years, and it knocks them down every time, one shot. But for deer, this bullet right here, 230 grain, 45 caliber semi-automatic pistol bullet. It's a very small bullet, but it's a 230 grain bullet and a 50 caliber Black Sabbath. Watch out for that cactus. It'll get you. Well, here's where we see. Here's where we tell. Let's see what happened. We've kept this camera rolling from start to finish. There's no cuts, no edits, no nothing. How's it look? Hey.
Be your own judge.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what.
Be your own judge.
There it is, right there. From start to finish.
See it good there.
Okay, let me go ahead and take it off.
Okay.
Go ahead and take it off here. Go ahead and remove the paper.
There you go.
There it is, right there. Looks kind of ripped in a way, but let me show you something. Let me put it against my shirt and kind of put it back together. I'll lift it up. Can you see that? Can you see that okay? Right there. There's the hole. Can you see that okay? There's the hole. And if you look at that hole, this hole, you can actually see the lead track around the hole itself. That's the lead track that's made by the round as it's passing through the paper. It actually makes that lead track. folks, what we've done here is we didn't want to do any trick photography. We didn't want to roll anything or edit anything for you. What I actually wanted to show you today, rolling the camera, starting it right here from the very start to the very close. When my dad Roland went ahead and walked up here with this target. There's no editing, there's no trick photography to this. This round was fired from the new Remington Model 700 muzzle loader. We rolled the camera from start to finish. It was fired from right here. The camera was still rolling when my father walked out there, picked the target up, walked it back. And you can see the results of that new Remington Model 700 muzzle load rifle. Hey, do not let anybody tell you that these rifles, or any muzzle load rifle, is only capable of harvesting animals and it's only accurate out to 100 yards. If that animal is within 100 yards, you can take him. But hey, if he's beyond 100, forget him. Forget him. He's too far. The gun won't shoot that far. The gun will shoot that far. The gun will harvest big game animals out to and beyond 200 yards and possibly even 300 yards. Hey friends, I want you to listen to this wind and I want you to look at those clouds back there behind me. Hey, it's the middle of August, it's getting close to September, and that means only one thing to me. The southern New Mexico black powder desert mule deer hunt. When you go out there and you purchase that black powder rifle, that black powder rifle is going to come with standard iron sights. These could be buckhorn sights, or it might be a V-notch sight, such as these sights right here, which are offered on the Cabela's Hawkins rifle. If you happen to purchase, or you do happen to own, the new Remington 700 muzzleloader, they come with standard Williams sights. The front sight is a very fine front bead sight that is painted white to assist you in finding the front sight and the rear sight notch. And the white Shootin Systems rifle also comes with standard Williams sights. These are also very fine bead sights. The only difference between this rifle and the Remington, when we're talking about the sights, is that the front sight is a gold bead sight. Or, you never know, you might be like a couple old buddies of mine there in town, and they like to hunt with these old rifles like this, which is also a black powder rifle, which has no rear sight at all. They believe in only having one sight, the front sight. Now, we've talked a little bit about the iron sights. Let's talk a minute about the optical sights. If you purchase a new Remington or the white Shootin Systems rifle, these rifles come drilled and tapped for scope mounts. All you have to do at that point is simply pull out the scope mount screws, which are located right here. Put the standard scope mounts on, then the rings and scope of your choice. Remember one thing though, your state may not allow optical sights. This state I hunt in right here does not allow optical sights whatsoever. We have to rely solely and strictly on iron sights. So make sure you check your state proclamation on that. Make sure you find out whether or not your state allows you to use optical sights. If it does, hey, I would prefer using them myself. Let me tell you, these babies can be just as accurate as the modern smokeless rifle when you mount a scope on top of them. We're going to be talking about matching powder and bullets for the particular rifle that you might be firing. In America today, most of your archery hunts and black powder muzzleload hunts are classified as primitive weapon hunts. As you would do with your bow, if you were going out archery hunting today to take a fine mule deer buck, the first thing you'd want to do is weeks before, take that bow, match the diameter or weight of the arrow with particular weight of the broadhead that you'll be firing for a certain distance you wish to fire it at. You would also do the same exact thing with your black powder rifle. What I have on the table here are several items, which I'd like to explain. This right here is the standard 308 Winchester rifle cartridge. You can take this 308 Winchester rifle cartridge, place it in almost any firearm chambered for this particular round, and find that you are going to receive positive results in all of those rifles. Whereas this black powder load to my left is the black powder load that I use in my personal rifle, the Remington Model 700 muzzleloader, to harvest elk. This includes the 425 grain Great Plains bullet, 100 grains of Pyrodex RS, or the equivalent of double F black powder, with a number 11 CCI cap. Even though this particular load works fantastic for me in my rifle, I can harvest a bull elk out to and even sometimes beyond 150 yards with this load. That does not necessarily mean that it's going to work in your rifle. What you might want to do is change the bullet just a little bit. Maybe go to the Buffalo bullet 425 grain. Possibly increase your powder load 10 grains, up 10 grains to 110, or download 10 grains to 90. And or possibly even change your number 11 cap from a CCI to a Remington. Let's go ahead and talk about rifle twist. When we're talking about rifle twists, we're talking about a variety of twists. I have a good friend of mine in town, shoots a CVA Kentucky rifle, 50 caliber. He fires a patched round ball, 70 grains of double F black powder, and harvests his buck every year. He also fires the 425 grain Great Plains bullet out of the same rifle. He increases his powder load, however, to 100 grains of double F black powder, and he harvests those elk every year, time and time again. The Remington Model 700 has a 1 in 28 twist barrel. This 1 in 28 twist barrel is basically designed for both the saboted or sabot bullet and also the conical bullet. It is also very effective with a round ball. However, I prefer to use the saboted or conical bullet. This Cabela's 54 caliber Hawkins rifle has a barrel twist of 1 in 48. This rifle was actually designed as an all-purpose rifle. It will shoot all three very effective: the patched round ball, the conical bullet, or the saboted bullet. However, the 1 in 66 twist barrel is designed basically for the patched round ball and the conical bullet. Remember, if you know the rifle twist for the particular rifle that you're firing, this information right here will help you decide what bullet and what powder load that you might fire in your rifle to get your rifle on point of aim, point of impact. Let's go ahead and discuss for a moment bullet weight and powder loads. You know, folks, for centuries, loading techniques have been argued. This is because of the fact that no individual technique has ever been proven. What I have here on the table today is different components for a 54 caliber black powder rifle. I have double F black powder. I have its equivalent in the Pyrodex RS. I have the 230 grain round ball with a patch. I also have here the 540 grain Thompson Center Maxi Hunter. I have the 460 grain Buffalo bullet. I have the Hornady 54 caliber 425 grain Great Plains bullet, and I also have here the 50 caliber jacketed hollow point in a 54 caliber purple sabot. If I was going to be firing a, say, Thompson Center Hawkins with a 1 in 66 twist, what I would do is start out with either the Double F Black Powder or the Pyrex RS. It's about 70 grains and a round ball at 25 yards. Sight that rifle in at 25, then move back to 50, 75, and 100. Okay, if you feel comfortable with the rifle that you're firing, that 1 in 66 twist Thompson Center Hawkins, you might even want to move back to the 150 yard mark and go ahead and sight in point of aim, point of impact for that distance with a round ball. It's a very effective round in a 1 in 66 twist barrel. You could also use the Maxi Hunter, the Buffalo bullet, or the Hornady Great Plains bullet, but again, start out with low loads at close distances, work that load up and out to the particular distance that you wish to fire. If I was going to fire a rifle such as the new Remington Model 700 muzzleloader, it has a 1 in 28 twist barrel. If I'm going to hunt deer, I'm probably going to stay away from the round ball because there's a more effective bullet. The 425 grain Great Plains bullet is very effective on deer, as is the 325 grain jacketed hollow point and the 54 Purple Sabot. But again, I want to start out at 25 yards and work that load up for that bullet out to the distance that I wish to fire. If I was going to fire the Cabela's Hawkins rifle in a 1 in 48 twist for deer, I might then want to go to the 230 grain round ball or any of the conical bullets or saboted bullets, and again start at close distances, working my way out to the further distances and work up that load. Once you work up that load, you're going to find out that that bullet is going to perform excellent time and time and time and time again. Okay? So make sure, start out with the powder that you choose in double F. Remember, double F for 50 caliber or larger, and triple F for your 45 caliber or smaller. Work that load out, maybe even change caps, Remington CCIs, back and forth a little bit, change the powder load, and change the bullet that you're going to be firing. Work up the load, work out the problem that you're having, and go harvest those game animals. Hey friends, the information that you've received in this segment of this video is very, very important. It's going to save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of headaches. Remember, the starting load that you're going to begin with may or may not differ from your finishing load. Hey, one nice thing about it, if you follow the instructions in this portion of this video, you're going to find out that you're probably going to have that 2-inch group at 100 yards versus that everyday common 8 or 10-inch group at 100 yards.
Thanks, Jim. That was great information. Hey folks, you ready? I'm ready. Let's load a black powder rifle. But before we begin, let's talk about a couple of safety factors. Never load or handle black powder or any type of firearms powder when you're smoking or around a campfire. That's very important. We don't want somebody getting hurt. All right. As with any firearm, when you pick it up, always point that muzzle in a safe direction. The next thing you do, especially with a black powder firearm, check and see if there's a cap on the nipple. You never want to load or handle a black powder firearm when there's a cap on the nipple, unless you're ready to shoot. We have checked it and there's no cap on that nipple. The next thing we want to do is make sure that there's no load in the bore of the rifle. The way we do this, place the butt on the ground, point the muzzle away from your body and face. Remove the ramrod, then take the ramrod and run it down the bore. This muzzle loader is empty because the ramrod went all the way down. Now that we have checked and made sure that there's no cap on the nipple and the firearm is not loaded, then we need to dry the bore. The way we do this is simply with a clean dry patch and our cleaning jag. Remove your ramrod and screw the jag onto the ramrod. Take your clean dry patch, place it over the bore. Next we'll take the ramrod, place it into the bore, and it will capture the patch. Run the patch all the way down the bore till it stops, then remove it from the bore. This ensures us that the bore is dry. As with all black powder firearms, they must be clean and dry because water destroys black powder. It will not function if you have water in your powder. The next thing we want to do is pour a powder charge down the bore. The way we do this, we'll take our powder measure from our possible bag. By the way, this possible bag was purchased at Walmart. Very reasonable price, and it's very handy. Set our powder measure at the prescribed load. Again, with the information that Jim just gave us, I took this rifle out and it showed to perform its best with 90 grains of double F with the Barnes bullet. So we're set at 90 grains. Remove our powder flask. All the way to the top. We'll put that back. Now, this powder measure has a funnel on the top of it, which makes it dispense in the bore much easier. Rotate it around and this will wipe the excess powder off of the powder measure. Gives you a precise 90 grains by volume. Next, we'll pour this powder down the bore. Again, we want to keep the muzzle away from our body just in case we might have something hot down bore. That could cause a flare-up. That's not too tough. Next, we're ready to put a projectile down the bore. To do this, we take the projectile, and again, this is the Barnes bullet with the black sabot. Insert it into the bore slightly. That's just to get it started. Now it won't fall off, it won't go anywhere. Now you can get your ball starter off your possible bag with the small concave side. Place it directly on top. Give it a swift wrap. Keeping your hand away from the muzzle, because if your hand's too tight around the muzzle, what you'll do is you're going to hit it and it's going to cause a pinch, and I guarantee you that's going to hurt. Next, we'll take the long side of the ball starter and we'll seat the bullet further down the bore. Again, once you get it so far down the bore, then just rotate your hand down the bore, the barrel of the gun slightly. That'll get away from the ball starter. You won't get pinched. Now that it's started partially down the bore, we're going to seat the bullet completely down till it stops. Once it stops, then we're going to give it one good wrap. That will seat that bullet firmly on top of the powder charge. If you don't seat the bullet firmly on top of the powder charge, what I mean is, if you short start that bullet down the bore, run the ramrod down, and the bullet stops here, you have a powder charge here, you have an air gap in between. If you fire this black powder rifle with that air gap in there, what you have is a pipe bomb in your hands. Nobody wants to have one of those babies in your hand. So, the way I do it, once I've seated my bullet, down bore, I mark my ramrod right at the top of the muzzle. this gives me a reference for this particular load. If I was to change bullets or powder charge, of course, that would raise the rod or lower the rod. So once you have your optimum load, which is 90 grains with the Barnes bullet for this particular rifle, then we mark that ramrod and we know from now on that ramrod should be there. If you have a short start, it'll be up here. Okay, now this black powder firearm is loaded. It's ready to fire, but we will never put a cap on the firearm until we're ready to fire. Remember, never load a black powder firearm with a cap on the nipple, and always wait 15 seconds before you reload after a shot. Next up is Jim, and he's got a couple of pointers for us.
We've discussed matching bullets and powder, and Kelly has just got through demonstrating the proper and safest way to load your black powder rifle. Let's talk about a few other things. Let's start out with knowing your target. Before you ever squeeze the trigger on that rifle, before you ever place a cap on that nipple, make sure that you know the target that you're going to be firing at. Make sure that that target is what you intend to hit. Also, make sure of your background. You never know. You may have another hunter step into the background of that big 5x5 buck. Make sure you can see that hunter. Make sure you know the background before you squeeze the trigger. Hey, remember another thing. Let's think about and remember those basic fundamentals of marksmanship. The most important thing to remember is trigger control and sight picture. Align those sights in the proper manner, place them on that target, watch that background, and squeeze that trigger. Remember when we were kids and we had those little squirt pistols? Remember how that trigger felt when we would squeeze the trigger on it and actually feel every ounce of pressure that was being applied as that water was being dispersed out the barrel? It kind of had that feel, didn't it? That's the same feel you should have with that black powder rifle when you squeeze that trigger. Feel every ounce of pressure that's applied. Hey, another thing, on sight adjustment, when you fire that rifle and you're sighting it in, when that bullet strikes to the right, and you want to move that bullet from the right to the left and put it dead center, move those sights to the left. If that bullet strikes to the left and that you need that bullet to come to the right just a little bit to put it dead center, move those rear sights to the right. Move those rear sights in the direction that you need to move that bullet. And that also counts for up and down. If you remember these things and you take them out in the field and practice them with that black powder rifle, you're going to get good.
Nice shot, son.
Thanks, Dad.
Let's discuss for a moment the importance of cleaning your black powder firearm during the sight-in process. The reason we will do this is because black powder is a very dirty substance. It builds up in the bore of the gun. Therefore, when this buildup occurs, your accuracy and the consistency of the round diminishes. Therefore, we need to clean after every shot and clean and oil after every third shot. The reason for this is because what if you're in the woods and you pull up on that record book mule deer buck? You're hopefully going to be shooting at this mule deer buck with a clean black powder firearm. Therefore, we need to clean after every shot and clean and oil after every third shot. Okay, we're ready to clean the firearm between the shots. As you saw, Rocky fired this Remington Model 700, but just to be sure, we'll remove the ramrod and place it down the bore. That assures us that the firearm is not loaded. I need that. Okay, we're going to clean after each shot. To do this, simply put the jag on the ramrod, take a clean patch, such as this, and add a bore cleaner to it. What I'm using here is the Thompson Center number 13 bore cleaner. It's a very good product, very reliable. Saturate your patch, and don't just put a little dab and think that'll do it. Saturate that patch. You need to clean that bore. It's very important. This stuff is, it's not that expensive. We take that good saturated patch, place it over the muzzle, take our ramrod with our jag, and simply insert it into the bore. All the way down, and all the way back out. As you can see, we did get a little fouling out of the bore. This is good. Next, we take a clean, dry patch, remembering that we don't want water on our black powder firearm. We're going to dry the bore now and clean also. And for that firearm being just fired, that's pretty nice. That's a good patch. Not a lot of fouling in there. Now, after every third shot, we need to clean and oil. So you will clean in the same process. Now we're going to oil. All you need to do here is take a clean dry patch and a lubricant, such as this, Thompson Center. This is the Natural Lube Bore Butter, another very reliable product. You place it in the center of the patch. And a good gob. Don't be sparing with this stuff. It's not that expensive. Now we're going to rub it on the outside of this patch. The reason being is because the jag is catching the patch in the center, and if there's nothing on the outside, then there's nothing catching the walls of the bore. Jimmy said this stuff is food grade rated. I wonder if you can eat it. Yeah, I guess you can, but whoa, that's bad. Kind of like Ben Gay with a kick. Woohoo! Okay, moving on. Place that patch over the bore, and then run the ramrod down the bore, and this will oil the bore, lubricate it up real nice. Whoa, that stuff is nasty. I wouldn't put that on my salad. And again, we're coming out with a fairly clean patch. Be sure and do this. It'll save you a lot of trouble in the field when you're chasing that big buck.
Hey, thanks Kelly, thanks Rocky. Let's talk for a minute about when you are supposed to rematch the bullet and powder for the particular rifle that you're firing. Hey, you should do exactly what I do. Every year I take my rifle out at the beginning of season, and believe me, that's pretty early. It usually starts about June or July. Take that rifle out, take that same exact load that you matched for it last year and fire it again. Fire it again and make sure that that load is still matched for that rifle, because I'll tell you, what happens is time and time again after firing that rifle throughout the year, what happens is the very next year rolls around, you've done proper cleaning and maintenance on it, the very next year rolls around, and what you find out is, hey, why is this thing shooting high? Why is it shooting low? Why is it shooting over here, shooting over there? The next thing you know is that load that you had last year for that rifle is not going to work this year for it. Something happens. 9 times out of 10, it's wear on the riflings in the bore. That's one instance. The next instance is if you happen to change rifles. If you change rifles, again, match a load for that particular rifle. Now, another thing to remember is practice. Practice makes what? It makes perfect. Practice, practice, practice. I can't tell you enough about practice. You need to take that rifle out once you've matched that load and practice with that rifle. Hey, don't just practice on targets. I know of guys and girls who have taken the rifle, matched that load at the range, and practiced on that target, and let me tell you, a 1-inch group at 100 yards. A 1-inch group at 100 yards is perfect on a target. But what happened when they went hunting? Here come that big old buck or that bull elk, stood up there broadside, they pulled up, boom, squeezed the trigger. Where'd the bullet go? They had no idea where that bullet went. Why? They were too used to practicing on a target. They weren't used to practicing on live animals, on non-game, on small game. What you want to do is take that rifle out, practice on rabbits, practice on groundhogs, practice on whatever you can find that is out of season, that you don't need a license for, and that there's plenty of. Take that rifle out there and practice on those live game animals. Hey, I'll tell you, once you have taken a live animal with your black powder firearm, you'll go out there come deer season and you'll knock them dead every time. Remember that.
Now we're going to discuss the proper cleaning method for your black powder firearm. I've got some buddies back home that won't shoot black powder because they say, well, I do all the cleaning and I don't ever get to shoot it. I do less shooting than I do cleaning. I clean the thing all the time. It takes too long. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. But I will tell you this. If you don't clean your black powder firearm, it won't last. That's one way to destroy that gun. This method will help you to preserve your firearm, and it really doesn't take that long. Let's get started. First, you want to take your firearm, and again, check, make sure there's not a cap on the nipple. Then remove the ramrod. Make sure the firearm is not loaded, and it is not. Now we're ready to get started. The first thing we want to do is remove the ramrod, place it on the table because we'll need it in just a minute. Then we'll remove the key from the stock and place it on the table. Pull the hammer to the half-cock position, rotate the barrel upward, and then pull it out. Your stock you can set aside. Now we're ready to begin the cleaning process of the barrel. We take a jag, put it on the ramrod, and take a clean patch, and again using the number 13 bore cleaner, saturate the patch. Place the patch over the bore. Run it all the way to the bottom and back up. Do this several times. Then remove the patch from the bore. And that's not too bad. Next, we'll take a dry patch and run it down the bore. Whoop, I got two of them. No, I don't. I have it doubled. I don't need to do that. Running the dry patch down the bore and work it several times in the bore. Until the patch comes out to a light gray or completely clean. If this doesn't work, what you may want to do is take the jag off and put a bristled either wire or nylon brush on the jag. Saturate the brush with the cleaning fluid and work the bore some more. Then go back to the dry patch. Continue this until the bore comes out fairly clean. Once we've done this, we've dry patched. We take a generous amount of bore butter and I've learned my lesson. I ain't going to eat it. Place it over the bore and run it down. This will help preserve your bore while the firearm is in storage. After we've done this, we go to the nipple end and remove the nipple with our nipple wrench. Set our barrel aside. A toothbrush is very important. Everybody has old toothbrushes laying around, or you throw them away. Don't throw them away. It's a very useful tool in firearms maintenance. Take your bore cleaner again, put it on the toothbrush, and simply clean the outside of the nipple. When it appears to be fairly clean, we'll put our toothbrush down, take a simple pipe cleaner, apply a little bit of bore cleaner, and we'll run that into the nipple. This will clean the inside of the nipple. This is very important because remember, this is the beginning of the ignition of this rifle. It all starts right here. If this is dirty or obstructed, it's not going to fire. Or it may fire and you have a what we call hang fire, a delayed reaction. Once that's cleaned out, then we simply wipe off the exterior of the nipple and set it aside. We go back to our barrel, we take our pipe cleaner, inserting it into the flash channel, and it'll kind of bend and go through on the Hawken styles. And just work it down in there a little bit and clean out that channel. Take the dry end and dry it out, remembering that we don't want any moisture. Then we'll take our nipple and insert it back. Black powder is very, very corrosive, and the reason so is because it attracts moisture. If you live in a dry climate, you might get away with a little bit of moisture remaining in the barrel, but I really doubt it. If you live, say, in the eastern side of the country where you have a lot of humidity or moisture in the air, this black powder firearm will rust up on you real quick. So be sure and get the moisture out of the firearm as best you can. Next, we'll work on the lock, and again, taking our same toothbrush, applying a little bore cleaner, we want to work over the hammer where it strikes the nipple, because you're going to get a little bit of blowback on that hammer. So a little black powder will remain up here. And we work that around a little bit. That looks pretty good. And we simply dry it off. Down here I see a little bit.
right on the side of the lock. We work that with a toothbrush and wipe it off. Okay. Now we're going to reassemble. Simply take the barrel, place it in the tang at the rear, slide it into the stock, take your key, that's in, let our hammer down. Now we take a rag with whatever type of wood preservant you want to put on there and just wipe down the firearm. Myself, I use boar butter on my wood. It seems to work fine. This old rag, it may look dirty, but it's really clean. It's been seasoned, as I call it. And that's what you're doing to your boar with the boar butter. You're actually seasoning the boar just like a cast iron skillet. Wipe down the whole firearm, barrel included, cleaning everything off. You tell me if it takes that long.
Friends, as you can see, getting started in black powder shooting, it's not that hard and it's not that expensive. Men, women, boys and girls, we can all enjoy the sport of shooting black powder firearms.
That's right, Kelly. And friends, we hope that the information contained in this video will help you enhance your black powder skills.
Also, folks, remember, before you go out in the field, read your proclamation, pay close attention to your state regulations. Also, respect the landowner's rights.
And again, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this great black powder instructional video. And remember,
Hunt smart
hunt safe,
and have fun.